Keeping venomous reptiles is an unforgiving hobby, requiring proper training and lots of experience. One simple mistake can be the difference between life and death. Remember, the most venomous snake in the world is the one that just bit you. There are no venomous snakes with training wheels. Just because you see Viperkeeper handle snakes a certain way does not mean you should try it too.
Well, it's Saturday morning and the typical chores are taking place. This is the horned pit viper cage, Protobothrops cornutus, and you can see one sitting here on the log. I haven't really worked very much with these guys because simply they were all feed for the longest time and had some bad sheds, and that's all cleaned up and they're feeding really well. And when the snakes are feeding really well, I really don't like to disturb them. So we're going to try to gingerly get in here. Yes, I see you moving your head and seeing activity. And because they're feeding really well, they're really sort of prone to striking out. So we're doing some spot cleaning. Oops, see what I mean? Bet that left a bad taste in your mouth.
Mouthful of poop, not what you were expecting.
You know, and this is why we use special tools to avoid getting our fingers nipped. Although they don't have really horrid venom, it's still a pit viper, and this will definitely cause you a week's worth of misery and maybe some lasting necrosis to the bitten, affected limb or digit. So we make our best effort to avoid these sort of things. I fashioned a special tool. I got the handle at like Home Depot in the painter's department. I drilled it out. I got the spoon at like the dollar store, and I drilled this out and I epoxied it in, and over time it sort of cracked, and I could get sort of a hose clamp and clamp it. I think I'll probably just pull the spoon out at some point and just replace it. But one of the things that we do is they're always dirtying their water dishes, or some bacteria or such is growing in it, so we change them often, but sometimes they end up getting dirty as quick as we can replace them. On these two pails over here, for infection control purposes, anything that goes into the cage, when it comes out, it goes into concentrated disinfectant bleach. Then as a rinse, it goes into water and chlorhexidine, a different kind of disinfectant, and then it can be either air dried and put back on top of the cage, or we can use it on the next cage. So we'll start at the top here because this is the obvious and easiest one to get to, because the Jararaca is in his trap box and is unlikely to lash out. So we'll clean up this fresh scat. And sometimes if I'm working at the taller cages, what I'll do is I'll just grab the lid of the so-called poop bin, and use that as a tray, because I don't want to be dropping a lot of substrate on the floor. Mrs. Viperkeeper is constantly after me and cleaning the floor and complaining that I leave messes behind me. So we try this route up. Miss Jararaca is retracting into her trap box, and since she's next in line, this is perfectly okay with me. So the substrate gets changed about once a quarter because of the expense. It's like for a bag of substrate, it's now like $24. I buy in bulk. I used to be able to get it for $13 a bag. And one of these cages that the Jararacas are in, it costs, it takes about half a bag or so. So we do it once a quarter. If there's a major disaster in that particular cage, you know, then we'll do it more frequently. But right now, we're not going to do that. And since I can see the Jararaca in there, I will remove the water dish. You know, you can see that, you know, when the snake takes a drink, its oral bacteria gets in the water, and so we change this out, and we'll put a fresh water dish in a little later. I see it's cleverly hid some scat up here, so I'll get all that out at the same time, and then I'll just sort of reshuffle the substrate that's in there. If need be, I'll add a little bit of fresh. I especially try to get urate as much as I can, because that's a nitrogenous waste. It creates ammonia and smell and stuff. We walked in here the other day and we're like, holy cow, somebody really took a big dump. I will leave this unlocked for the moment. However, I will put the stick back in. The stick serves two purposes. It really makes it difficult for either glass to be slid by the snake, and also when you walk around the room, these windows will rattle, and it's a bit annoying. Now, you know, even though I'm absolutely certain there's no disease processes going on in either of all these cages, we still disinfect between every snake just to make sure, because we don't want to spread anything from one cage to another. Now, this Jararaca eats more frequently because it's the female than the male. The male is really a very picky eater. He eats maybe once or twice a month, where she will eat until she explodes. So she gets quite hangry with me, and is very disappointed when she doesn't get fed. I've cut her back to about every other week. Maybe every 10 days she'll get something to eat. She has good weight. Currently I'm not breeding them. I didn't put them together this year because frankly right now I don't have time to feed baby Jararacas and get them started in the world. And although there would be plenty of people interested in obtaining some baby Jararacas, it's not the sort of snake that I would, you know, sell freely to people who are unexperienced or do not have access to the proper AntiVenom, because this snake kills more people in its range than I think most of the other Brazilian snakes. The Jararacas and the Bothrops brazili, or the Mugini as we call them, They're the ones where they found the compound that are now considered ACE inhibitors that drop blood pressure really quickly. So we'll take and we'll dump this just so we don't have an accident and spill more. We'll clean this scooper that I fashioned once again. And now we have this bobbit who leaves some nice, neat little piles. Every snake is different. They will, some are very tidy and will deposit their processed rodent or chicks or whatever we have in one spot. And some will paint the cage and move it all about. Miss Bobbit generally will deposit their leftovers, let's call them, in one spot. And this makes it a bit easier to clean it out. I'm trying to clean it out without putting it in a water dish in the process. You almost sort of need a spoon and spatula sort of to push things in. Sometimes I'll use a hook to move things around. Now people have, you know, commented, one of the things Laurie does behind the scenes is, you know, all these dirty water dishes take quite a bit of time. We soak them in Clorox and soap water, and then scrub them clean and make sure that we've gotten everything out. And then they get dried, and we have a special UVC cabinet that we build that we put them in to disinfect them with UV to make sure that the viruses and other parasitic type things get killed that the Clorox and soap and water don't take care of. People have also commented the fact that I've lost a lot of weight. Well, I will tell everybody the secret is number one, I changed my diet radically because I have a very bad lower back and thoracic spine. My surgeon said that did my back surgery said one thing that I could do to really help myself out is to lose, you know, quite a bit of weight. So my 2019 weight was about 270 pounds. I am now at about 203 pounds. I did this very slowly over the past few years by, one, cutting out all the soda that I was consuming. I drank a lot of Coke. Coke has 14 grams of sugar per liter, which is a huge amount, and I cut out other carbohydrates that are not complex carbohydrates that are good for you. You know, and just my normal activity, walking from place to place and such, and eating less, and having Laurie has become quite the chef. I mean, she's always cooked good stuff in the past, but right now we eat a lot healthier than we did in 2019. So if you want to lose weight and keep it off, cut out sugars and cut out, you know, carbohydrates. Like, one of my favorite foods in the world is pizza, and I almost never have pizza anymore because it's the carbohydrate load is just really not healthy for you. And that's simply how I did it. It's just you know, just standing here, I can feel, you know, quite a bit of pain in my lower back. My right leg has lots of numb spots, and I have sort of, you know, partially paralyzed foot at this point. I need to see the surgeon again to probably have a tune-up. So that's what's behind that. So enough of my personal stuff. We will visit Miss Orutu next. Miss Orutu has been off feed. I'm not sure why this is, but she's an adult Orutu now, and I think she's I think this is breeding season, because remember, she's from southern Brazil and Argentina, so I think this is breeding season for her. She's an adult Orutu right now, and normally she will chow down you know, whatever I put in the cage. Especially she loves rats, so she usually gets a small rat a week, but as you can see, she has really good weight, and she's sort of interested in my visit. A lot of the snakes are sort of, let's say, conditioned that when I visit and open that door, they're expecting food to come through it. And this is sort of a tricky business because if they're expecting food and you actually get bit in the process, usually the amount of venom injected is much higher than if it was a defensive bite, because they can't eat you and they just want to deter you. They don't see you as a food item. So
she's moving towards you now.
Yep,
so.
I see that. So thank you, and that's always a good thing to have Laurie looking over my shoulder to make sure that we work as safely as we possibly can.
And this is one of the most beautiful snakes in our collection. They're absolutely stunning.
Yeah, she is really, really a very beautiful snake. And I'll sort of clear the deck here a little bit, although I am right on the edge of strike range if she really wanted to make an all-out effort. But she realizes that there's no food coming, and she's just gonna chill out and, you know, just sort of sit there. Her brother, she and her brother arrived in 2016 from my friends at the Kentucky Reptile Zoo. We trade snakes back and forth, and I have a very good and close relationship with those people. They have a fundraiser going. They want to build an amphitheater for their teaching on their grounds. They go out and do community outreach teaching, you know, have scouts and other groups, they go to their place and teach, but it'd be nice if they had sort of an amphitheater sort of arrangement to teach people. So visit the Kentucky Reptile Zoo site and you know, donate to them so they can fulfill their dream of having a really nice teaching center on campus. But at any rate, her and her brother, you know, flew here via Delta Dash, and unfortunately some irresponsible people at Delta left her and her brother on the hot tarmac, and I nearly lost them both. I did lose the brother shortly after arrival from heat stroke. I was able to cool her and keep her, but she has some neurological problems and really doesn't strike in a predictable manner the way a normal Orutu would. So I'm happy she survived, because she is just quite a stunning animal. And generally pretty good-natured. She doesn't come out much other than when we change the cage, so she's quite a nice animal to work with. I do have AntiVenom available for her, specific from Brazil. I hope I never need it, but it's like a fire extinguisher. You have them in the house just in case. Well, I have AntiVenom here just in case. Because some of the snakes that I keep and some of the snakes I see people keep, you really need to have at least a starter dose of AntiVenom if you get bit and you show up at the emergency room. Otherwise, more damage will occur, because remember, Dr. Sean Bush says, and he's absolutely correct, time is tissue, and remember, blood is a tissue, and a lot of these pit vipers are destroying your blood and your clotting factors as things go, in addition to destroying the tissue where the bite occurred. So with that, that's a quick overview of what goes on here on Saturday mornings. We can go up here and take a look at the nice present that Thud left us. He has dirtied his water dish by pooping in it.
It's hard to see, it's getting a lot of reflection of this stuff.
Ah, okay.
But yes, he made a terrible, terrible mess.
Now he was just up top, and he's going to think that we're up. And
here he comes.
Here
he thinks there's food.
He thinks that food is.
I'm backing up because he will come out and visit.
Yes. Hi, Thud. No, we're just here to show the people what a lovely mess you left in your water dish for us. So, I mean, we can put a fresh one in there, and the next morning it can look like this. And even though Thud's pretty docile overall, it's not a cage that I let Laurie go into, because he is a big, strong snake, and he can be somewhat unpredictable. Most of the time, you know, he's a big puppy dog, especially if there's no food present. If there's food present, his feeding response kicks in and he will bite anything that comes close. Other than that, he is generally quite a docile creature, and if I was, you know, like some other handlers on YouTube, I could easily free handle him and not worry so much about it. I do take quite a bit of liberty with him, especially if he's got a stuck shed, because who wants to swim in that pool? So he doesn't always go in there. So anyway, we'll come back in a little while and clean that. The way we clean that is usually I fill his mouth with something and attract him to the far corner, and then I change the water dish. It's the same thing with Crazy Mr. Brown, is I fill his mouth and change his water dish. Unfortunately, Mr. Brown is smarter than your average snake and realizes that the trap box is indeed a trap. And he won't go in it, he goes in his log. So it's not so easy to clean his cage unless I remove him from his cage, because he is fast, he is agile, and he has quite potent venom that I do not want to get in my skin. So that's a quick Saturday morning look at what takes place on a regular basis here at the Lair. Feeding will start later today once we spot clean everybody and take care of some of the problem situations.